Hi, everyone, and thank you for joining us today. I'm Andrada. I'm based in Bucharest, Romania, and so are my guests today, Razvan Luțac and Alexandra Nistoroiu, two outstanding investigative journalists from Romania. We have them today because one of their team's investigations is featured in Collective, a documentary that was shortlisted for the Oscars and was on former US President Barack Obama's list of must-watch movies in 2020. At the end of November 2015, a fire at a nightclub in Romania immediately killed 27 people and injured almost 200. Many victims were taken to hospitals, and the heads of the healthcare system in Romania claimed that they were receiving the best possible care, similar to that offered in Germany. However, a group of journalists working for the Sports Gazette heard otherwise. They stopped covering corruption in football and started to investigate the healthcare system. And they've discovered that many victims were later killed by hospital-acquired infections, and that the substances used to disinfect hospitals, including operating rooms, were diluted, often to as low as 10% of their advertised concentration, making them useless against germs. We know all this thanks to an amazing team of investigative journalists, and I would like to ask each of them to briefly introduce themselves. Razvan, thank you for being here today. Tell us
Thank you very
a
much
little
for the
bit,
invitation.
tell us a little bit about yourself. I know that you started working as a journalist quite early, right?
Yes, I was in the high school. I was 15 years old, and I entered the newsroom of Gazeta Sporturilor, of the Sports Gazette, as a kid, because they needed some young boys, some young guys to cover the small football, the smaller leagues in the lower leagues in the Romanian system. So I was just in my first weeks I was just collecting football results from the lower league. So I was calling people from all over the country to tell me the results of the football matches in the fourth league, in the fifth league, where you don't have, let's say, these results on the internet. You have to call them to ask for them. So that's how I started, and let's say after that, in 1 year or 1 year and a half, a lot of young guys left, and I remained there, uh, being, let's say, something like the head of this small part of the newsroom. After that, I started to make reports in the country, with these small clubs, and uh, I started to make a lot of sources, in Romania, and these sources helped me in a lot of ways because they knew a lot of things from their cities. So that's how I started to write a little bit more, not only about the football matches. So uh, I was maybe 19 or 20 years old when Cătălin Tolontan, which was our editor, saw me and asked me to help them in the investigation, in the investigative work. I started to do smaller things, easy, something. It was very easy for me because I was young. I was 19 years old. I was in my first year at the University of Bucharest. So I started to go to the courtroom, to trials, so and something like that, just to help them where they can go. So I helped him with these small things, and after that, let's say, I held them, Cătălin and Mirela. I held them with some investigative work and investigations regarding some ministers. Uh, we had the sport minister Monica Iacobidze. Uh, she was convicted after some articles written by our team, by Cătălin and Mirela, and After that, another minister, the Minister of Tourism, Elena Udrea, was also convicted after they started some investigations regarding a boxing match. So that's how we started. Also, Gazeta Sporturilor had a bigger tradition, in investigations, because uh, 8 of the most influential people in the Romanian football were convicted in 2014 after a huge investigation started by Gazeta in 2006. So after a lot of years, after the case, the prosecutors took the case, and after that they were judged, I think, for 6 years or something like that. They were convicted. So 8 of the most powerful people in the Romanian football were convicted in 2014 after their work.
And more recently, you moved from covering corruption in the football world and boxing world to
Yes.
corruption that I know affects the healthcare system and us all. Alexandra joined the team a little bit later, and many of you probably know her. She presented a little bit about her work during the last World Conference of Science Journalists in Lausanne, where she talked about fake doctors. Alexandra, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, I joined the team in 2019 in January, and the Fake Doctors series was one of the first stories I worked on at Libertatea. Uh, I think it was the second investigative story we did. And yeah, it was quite huge in Romania. Yeah, and before that, I used to be a TV reporter at a national TV station at DG24, where I also covered the health system, and I was also working on a cinema show, or a show about movies.
Which brings us to where we are today, talking about
Yeah.
movies and science journalism. Before we start, I would like to say that we welcome questions from the audience, so feel free to use the chat box, and I will happily ask our guests today to tell us more about the topics that you're specifically interested on. Razvan, for those members of the audience who haven't seen the collective movie, please tell us a little bit about the story, how it unfolded. So you were covering sports, and you
Yes.
suddenly got a tip from
Yes,
someone.
and it was in 2015, 5 years ago, so 5 years and some months ago. Oh, in October, it was a big blow for everyone, the collective fire, because we had 27 young people who died on site there in the fire, in the club which was on fire. And after that, a lot of them until 64, the rest of them died in hospitals, and many of them died after getting infections in these hospitals. So first of all, in October, after the fire, we started, well, just like as usual, writing about the connections with the sports, because uh, one of the band members was the son of a Romanian former champion, a fencer. She was a former Olympic fencer, so she went to the Olympic Games, and her son was one of the band that was singing in the club. So we started writing about this. We wrote about the fact that the Romanian main stadium in Bucharest hadn't the authorization, just like the authorization from the fire brigade, just like the club, the collective club. But after that, a lot of people came to us, and they asked us to continue the investigative work further. So not only in the sports, because uh, we had this tradition, and I think in the first week after the fire, We spoke with firemen. We spoke with medics, with people from hospitals, and it was for the first time in a lot of years when, let's say, these clustered uh, systems were opening in front of us, because until 2015 I think only a few people from the hospitals would speak in the media, not only on the record but also off the record. So it was a big problem until then. It was a very, very closed system, the medical system, uh, and they knew that we are not. They knew that we are non-partisan. We are we are not from the system, from the medical system. You know, we were not medical journalists. Had no relationships with some doctors or something like that, and they started to tell us small stories from their hospitals.
And you received tips
And
from medical doctors and nurses who came to you, giving you small bits of
yes,
information.
exactly. So we learned that, let's say, the biggest clinic, the biggest burn clinic in Bucharest, the one from the emergency hospital named Floreasca, it was closed. It was opened in April, but then in October it was closed, and no burn patient went there.
Yeah.
Uh, yes, so it was one of the first, let's say, investigative work after this fire. We also learned that the firemen knew about the collective, the club, but they told in the press immediately after the fire that they hadn't know about that place. So there were two lies which we let's say wrote about, and after I think a month, a doctor came to us, to our newsroom, and told us, okay, you see a lot of people uh, are still in the hospitals. In the people which were injured in the fire are still in the hospitals. Some of them are dying there. Do you know why they are dying? No, we don't know, because we are some sports journalists who just we are just starting to write about these things. We saved them from a fire bomb, and they are dying in a biological bomb. So the obviously the fire bomb was the club, and the biological bomb were the hospitals. Uh, and we started to write about the infections, because the foreign hospitals which were, uh, let's say, getting these patients from Romania uh, didn't knew that they have this bacteria. And after that, after a few weeks, another source came to us and told me, okay, you wrote about this bacteria. Do you know why the Romanian hospitals are full of bacteria and infections? Because the disinfectants are diluted. Okay, it was the moment when we said this is something science fiction. This is all over us. The people will think that we are crazy, and that's what my colleague Mirela told us. The people will tell will uh, will think that we are crazy, and we can't prove that. Okay, we have first a sole source. We had a first source, but how we will prove this? And after another month or something like that, we are already in 2016, at the beginning of 2016. Another source came to us, and he called us, and he told us that he has informations about uh, a company which is selling diluted disinfectants. And when I asked which is the name of the company, he told me that the name is Hexipharma. So it was the same company. So we already had two sources, and we were aware that this is something serious and we must dig deeper. So we started to ask a lot of people from hospitals, and also we started to ask people from this company of the record to to have a, let's say, a lot of proof before writing something. So we first wrote about the fact that the Romanian state doesn't verify this, doesn't check these disinfectants, and after a few days we had the tests which proved that the disinfectants were diluted. So this was in April 2015, and all of this was filmed, was caught on tape because we had this team, which was uh, let's say covering the aftermath of the fire. And I think in the following weeks, after we wrote about the diluted disinfectants, uh, the prosecutor started the file, but the boss of the company committed suicide after a month, I think. And in court, we are also the company and the other two directors are still judged in the court, and I think we will have a final solution only this year, at the end of this year, maybe. So
One of the
that's let's say the our part of the movie, when this crew is following us and is filming, let's say, the writing of this story.
Yeah, so this is a documentary. We have to say this, and at the beginning of the movie we saw a scene in which you tail the CEO of Hexipharma, the company that produced the diluted disinfectants. And what was it like for you to focus on doing your job while there are cameras that are watching you?
It was
Were there uncomfortable moments there?
yes, at first, yes, in the first weeks, yes, because we were not used to it. We were aware not to say something inappropriate because uh, let's say we were very nervous in that moments, but we got used to it after a few weeks, and it was okay, let's say, in the following months. But at first, yes, because we didn't knew them. We didn't know what will be and what will they make after filming us. So yes, it was a bit weird. We were aware not to expose our sources, of course, because we had a lot of sources, and um yes, a lot of off the record sources, and it was a bit tougher also for us. Uh, but after a few weeks, uh, we knew that they are also filming in the health minister, the new health minister. And when we saw that the health minister is surprised when we were calling him for reaction for something. We were very sure that the guys were not going to him and telling what they saw in our newsroom.
My understanding is that you were the youngest member of the team. Is that right? At
Yes,
Gazeta Sport. Okay.
yes,
Um,
I was 22. at the beginning of this investigation. I was 22, and after that 23, 24. Yes.
And you had the chance to work with Cătălin and Mirela, who are senior journalists and maybe one of the
Yes.
best journalists in Romania. I remember watching one of Cătălin's talks at some point, and he said that at the end of an investigation, you want to cry out loud and say and publish everything that you have quickly. But that's the exact moment when you need to pay attention and not rush it. And I was
Yes.
wondering whether there are lessons that you've learned from both Cătălin and Mirela along the
Yes.
way. Like,
Starting with Mirela, she's the most. She has the biggest courage in our team, and I'm still a shy guy, and uh, she helped me to pass over it because we had to in this investigation, and she learned me that my job is only to ask uh, make a science
since Răzvan's
to the boss of
connection.
the hospital.
Okay.
Me?
I would like to jump to Alexandra and ask her a little bit about the newsroom culture of this team, because if we watch the movie, there aren't a lot of moments in which the journalists are happy. Was this humbleness maybe part of your culture?
Sorry, there aren't a lot of moments where journalists are happy, you said?
Are not expressing their joy when it comes to the results of their investigations.
I'm not sure that there is such a thing as an investigative journalist that is happy, but maybe because if the story works and it is confirmed, then it means something really bad happened. So you cannot win either way. You either lose the story or something really bad happened. We don't usually write about really happy stuff. What you asked about the culture, I think what I like most about the team is that even though we're quite different, I think we do share our commitment to good and responsible journalism, and we try to always question ourselves and each other and challenge each other so that we can figure out the best way to give the audience, the readers, the best information possible.
Yeah. One other thing that I got from watching the movie was that you always ask each other if you are okay. So, Razvan, are you okay today? Alexandra, are you doing fine? Um, is how is this important when doing a lengthy investigation? And what were some of the challenges that you had to address on a, let's say, mental health level? Because
Oh,
it's quite demanding.
yes, it's important, and let's say I can tell you when the let's say that guy from the company committed suicide. I went there at the place of the accident, and after that, I did my job. Okay, I called my colleagues in the newsroom, and when I got home, everyone around me was very very scared. A lot of friends were asking me if I want to sleep at them, not to be alone at home or something like that. And yes, it helps you a lot. And let's say when you are in the newsroom with your colleagues, let's say at the first hand, it helps you a lot. It helps you a lot, and uh, it keeps you uh, chill and open-minded in that hard moments. Yes.
Alexandra, how do you cope with difficult moments?
I remember, I think it was a month after I came here at Libertatea, that Cătălin told me that a year from now we will be either on antidepressants or in therapy or an alcoholic. So none of those things happened so far, but it has been quite challenging at times. I think especially in the summer with the Caracal investigation, for me at least, I think that those were the most difficult times. But also during the pandemic, and what I tried to do, I tried to spend as much time as possible connecting with my friends and like reserving time in the day for my friends. I try to do some sort of exercise or yoga constantly. And what helped me during the pandemic actually was taking up the guitar. I started learning the guitar in August last year. And this was really helpful. I think just focusing on something I like and that I do just for myself. And yeah, just having some time that is not related to work in any way or to all the bad things that are happening. And I think it's also about the way you perceive work, because I used to be quite tough on myself. Like if I made mistakes before coming here, I think I still am, but what I've learned is to accept that we are going to make mistakes and that it is important how you handle them. Because even though if you take all the necessary precautions not to make a mistake, it will happen. Like it's unavoidable. Sometimes you will make mistakes.
I've read many on your stories. You've done fantastic work covering the pandemic. And I was wondering if you look at the collective moment and at the COVID moment, do you see any change? Do you see improvements when it comes to how healthcare is handled in Romania, public healthcare?
No.
No. So I keep saying that the only change is that the people are more open to speak with you and to tell you the problems from the hospitals, so the system is not so close like as it was in 2015. But to speak about changes, no. So we still don't have a new hospital in Romania since then, and the burned people are still struggling to get out of this country where we have only 25 or 24 places for the big burned ones. We had I think 2 weeks ago a guy from Constanța who was taken in Germany after a week, and he died there. And he went after he had 4 bacteria. I think he had 4 bacteria, and he died after a week in Germany. So Germany or in Belgium, I think in Belgium. So I think that the story is okay, not as in collective. We had a lot of people who died there, but it's a small collective after 5 years, and that shows us that we have that not so much has changed from 2015.
I know that you mentioned receiving a lot of tips from nurses and doctors, and they might risk losing their jobs. Some already did because of they decided to talk to you. And I was wondering if you prepare them for this.
Of course. We are keep telling them that it's very dangerous what they are doing, and a lot of them are very, very assumed, and they know that they can lose their jobs, but they cannot do their job, cannot do no more their job in that way. So they keep giving us info and videos and photos from the hospitals.
I know from Cătălin that he does a little bit of work with sources in a way that he tells them to take the days off when he publishes an investigation, and he even tells them what to say when they are approached by their colleagues. And I'm mostly talking about anonymous sources here. So I heard him once saying that he told a nurse or a doctor to say, "What investigation? Can I have a link? Can I see it? Do you have the paper?" Just to be I don't know, to cover the fact that they were your main source.
Yes, so we are keep telling them not to speak with anyone about that, because they cannot trust, let's say, the people around them there in the hospitals, and they can be targets for the let's say the people who are responsible for things we are writing about. Sorry, I don't hear you anymore. I think you closed your microphone.
Oh,
Okay.
sorry.
Okay.
This question is for both you and Alexandra. I was wondering if there are ethical things that you take into account, and if you've had different dilemmas when doing these investigations. If there are things you take into consideration.
Yes, we had some things. Let's say when we published a movie from the burned hospital where a patient had some maggots on his ear, and the images were disturbing. So I haven't seen until then images with a person in a hospital with maggots on his head. So yes, we had the dilemma. Okay, we will publish the images just like this, or we will take let's say a blur or something blurry over the maggots, because and also we published a video with we had from the fire brigade in the collective night fire, and also we had the dilemma if we will publish it like that, because it showed that the intervention was they were acting a lot of like amateurs, not like professional ones. But also you could see in the video the burned peoples and the people which were coming from the fire. So we decided to blur their faces and everybody who was running there, because okay, it was very hard to do this. We had 20 minutes to blur, but it was necessary. You have the microphone off again.
I keep doing that. I'm not good at muting. How about you, Alexandra? Were there moments in
Yeah, I
which
think
you had to face a difficult decision?
yeah, I think we come across them all the time. For instance, in November there was a fire at the at the hospital in Piatra Neamț, and 10 people died in the fire. And someone had sent us a photograph of some of the dead bodies in body bags, because there were so many casualties that the morgue was not sufficient, so they had to place just the dead bodies on the floor, and it was a really awful picture. And there was, for instance, a debate on whether or not this was of public interest, publishing that photograph or not, and we decided against it because it wasn't necessarily relevant or respectful to the families of the victims. But some people in the newsroom had arguments for publishing it, so it's always stuff like that, like whether or not you should publish an information or a piece of visual information, a photograph, a movie, a recording. Like I told you before about the Caracal investigation. So that was a big story in Romania with a girl that was, well, two girls actually. One of them was missing at the time in the summer. Later, we found out that she was dead. Um, but there was this recording of her call to 911, saying 112 in Romania, actually. And there was this recording of her saying that she was abducted and saying where she was. And we again had a debate in the newsroom on whether or not we should publish the recording with her voice. And there were arguments both for and against it. And in the end, it was published. So I don't know, it's stuff like that where it's about not only whether or not something is true or relevant, but also how it affects the people involved and their families, and yeah, whether we break the right to privacy or and stuff like that. And I think it happens on a regular basis, especially when you cover health related topics. It's unavoidable because we deal with disease and death all the time. So
On a more positive note,
yeah.
Tim would like to know what kind of feedback you've received from people who saw the movie. And I would also be interested in knowing if the sales of the papers you work for have gone up because of your investigations or not.
No, the sales are going naturally down, as in the rest of the world. You know, the newspaper, the era of the newspapers is long gone in Romania, and I don't think that the investigation help the newspaper. I think a lot of people were angry when they bought the Gazeta Sport or the Sports Gazette newspaper, and they found not football on the second page but investigation. So we had sometimes to do, let's say, a double cover, a cover with football, and if you would turn the newspaper upside down on the other part, a cover with the infections and bacteria from the hospitals. So I don't know if the newspaper was more read in that years, but okay, on the internet, yes, I know that the feedback was immense, and a lot of other Romanian media started to dig alongside us in this investigation. So yes, it was a feedback not also from the people, but also from the other media in Romania, and I
And
know
how
that.
about,
Yes, sorry.
yeah,
I want only to say that in the first month after publishing, I think this was the main main thing in the Romanian media. This Hexipharma case at all of the televisions and in the other newspapers.
one of the things that I spend a lot of time thinking about is that we should talk more about how we work as journalists and maybe better explain our processes to the public and make everything transparent and build trust. For some of the people in your groups, this was maybe one of the first moments when they watched the collective movie and saw what you were actually doing um,
Mhm.
on a daily basis. What was the feedback that you received from those
Yes, they
who saw the movie?
yes they a lot of them were not, were hadn't know in that moment what I was doing, for example, in the newsroom. So it was something new for them. Watching the movie was also something new for me because I saw the other parts of the movie with in the health minister and ministry and so on. It was something new also for me. But yes, for the public to see what we are doing daily, the argues between us and so on. Yes, it was something new, and I think that maybe they learned something new from the movie.
How about you, Alexandra?
Well, I'm not in the movie, so
Not
uh,
yet.
Yes, but you are the real science journalist in the team. Yes. Yes.
yeah. But I think the movie probably did help in allowing people to see a better how a newsroom works and what sort of debates are in a newsroom on a delicate subject. Because I think that before there was this myth that investigative journalists just receive a file and they publish it. Like there was this myth that some sort of intelligence agency just gives it's something called a servită in Română, like someone serving you an investigation on a platter and you publish it. And I think that maybe it does happen in other parts of the media. I'm not gonna speak about all of them, but it never happens here. So I think that showing the work behind an investigation might make people m- more receptive and perhaps more trusting when it comes to talking to the press and understanding all the dilemmas that go behind an investigation and all the steps, all the fact checking and all the questioning what you think you know, but maybe you don't really know. And yeah, I think maybe it does help the audience understand us better. And there were not as many artistic movies as well about journalism. There are quite a few, not so many. So this documentary might help people understand our work better, I
Yes,
think.
it was something very funny at Venice. So there was the first time when the movie was screened in the cinema at the festival from Venice, from Italy, and somebody asked us at the end of the movie if we are actors. And we told him that no, we are not actors, we are the journalists, and this was a documentary. and that person was shocked. So he thought that we are only actors.
We have a question from a guest in Malaysia. He said, have you found your work as investigative journalists to be more challenging with more online platforms competing to break the news?
Uh, yes,
Uh,
yes. So we had sorry, Alexandra. So we had we had the last example. I think an hour ago. We received yesterday a movie from some boys who were beaten in a small town in Romania. They tried to make some photos at the car who was transporting wood from the forests. Just to check if the transport was legal. So we received the movie. They were beaten by the guys who were transporting the wood. We started to to investigate the case, and today at I think at 1 o'clock Romanian time. Now it's 3:48. Somebody else who also received the movie published it. Okay, the guys who published our Rise project were very good guys, but they were quicker than us. So we also published it, but okay, let's say in a uh, lesser version, because we also wanted to see the buildings around the place and so on. But we are let's say used to make uh, a series, and not write all the story at once, and maybe we will continue, not maybe for sure we will continue the story in the next days.
Alexandra, do you feel it's nice
Yeah,
competition?
I think the competition can be really good sometimes, but it can also have its downsides because not all the media outlets have the same standards. So sometimes someone can go quicker, but not check some things and not to put it into context and still break the news first. And also, it can make us also hurry sometimes, maybe. And this is not necessarily a good thing because you you need to give a story as much time as it as that particular story requires. So yeah, there are downsides as well.
One more question, and this is interesting. How do you explain the public outrage after the collective fire? Why did this time people demonstrated and demanded changes instead of showing reluctance, which is usually visible after corruption scandals?
I think it was because there were many young people dying, uh, many people that were 20-year-olds or 25, and this hit a nerve with everyone, because to have so many people dying so tragically in a fire or after the fire, that yeah, that it wasn't just a corruption scandal, it was the huge tragedy. But what I found uh, interesting after collective was that it didn't just bring about the tragedy, but also a huge wave of solidarity and hope. Like, people were coming together to help those wounded, and to collect medicines or other health materials for the hospitals. Um, and this huge wave of solidarity and hope is something that I no longer found after the two fires in the hospitals this winter. So we lost that. But I think back then it was about, okay, so this is the time to speak the truth, and this is the time to change something, and give other politicians a chance, maybe, and yeah,
To
and
me,
held accountable the old politicians. And after that, I mean, we had already 5 years, 6 years went by, and we gave new politicians a chance, and we had different parties coordinating the health ministry, for instance, and so we had members from each party at the health ministry, for example, and not a lot has changed. So I think people are tired just expecting things to change and to, yeah, to evolve in the better direction. But I think the most important part was that to have dozens of people dying so young in the fire, I think that's what brought the big revolt and the outrage after collective.
I remember the slogan that was used a lot during the protests, which was "Corruption kills," and somehow it connected the fact that regardless of your bubble and how you want to create your bubble, you're still going to interact with the people
Yeah.
who are in power. One more question. I'll read it to you. This story exposed things that were certainly hard for you to believe initially. Having them confirmed probably requires you to reevaluate your perspective. How has your experience influenced your general view? Are you more pessimistic? Also, if you could choose one realistic consequence you wish that exposing the corruption would have had, what would it be?
Yes, I am pessimistic. Yes, I'm a pessimistic guy. But in these times, I think that in that times, I think that helped us a lot. That we were a team. We were three. Now with Alexandra, we are four, and we can speak to each other, and it's easier to reevaluate this perspective. If you stand and you write, I think by yourself, it's a bit tougher. But if you have a team and you have different opinions on the same thing, I think it helps you. And the consequence, realistic consequence after exposing the corruption. Um in this case, uh, let's say a consequence was that the disinfectants are now checked in Romania, so we don't have that lack of checking, and we have something like a filter between the companies and the hospitals, because it was something strange in our case. The the boss from Hexi Pharma, from this company, that was diluting the disinfectants, had also his own laboratory where he checked these disinfectants. Something like this, it cannot happen again this time. So I think this is a consequence that it's visible one, and it's something that I think it has changed from 2016.
I think also the fact that they're now sending burnt victims quicker outside the country when they cannot treat them. So at least
Yes.
that, in most cases, they do send them quicker abroad when they cannot save them in Romania. That's a good thing.
Yes.
As we are approaching 4 o'clock in Romania, and we have to to close this wonderful conversation, I would like to ask each of you if you have one small piece of advice for journalists who want to do investigations. What would be the one thing that you would like to them to know maybe before they start? Who would like to go first?
Alexandra.
I think maybe um, to try and be patient, even though it seems like you don't have enough time, and to question everything you think you know already. I think that's useful no matter what kind of journalism you do. To just question everything you think you know, all your biases and just everything before writing something. Just always question it and always double check and try to just see it from another perspective, and to find the counter arguments to whatever arguments you have in your mind. I think it's helpful just to just be more thorough in your work, more, yeah, to pay more attention.
There's a song in the movie, and it says like this: to be humble and to be kind. And I think that the journalist must be humble and must be kind. And I think that I'm the one who must who cannot give advice, because I'm only 27, I think. Yes, I'm 27. But I have
Double
I,
check that.
yes, but I think
Question
that I
everything.
yes, question everything, yes. But I think that I'm the one who must learn a lot from now, and I'm not giving any advice, because I know that the people that are listening know better than me what to do in this job.
Thank you so much, Alexandra and Razvan, for being here. And I think that being kind and humble are two things that we always have to keep in mind. For those of you who haven't seen the movie, the title is Collective, and it should be available on many platforms. And we're going to keep our fingers crossed for the Oscars. And maybe we'll see a lot more examples about investigative journalism um, pieces featured in movies in the years to come. Thank you all.